I think it's more direct with financial incentives because it gets down to like the commenting level and everything. Like the vision is like for every function you can perform as a contributor in the DAO, if you can get directly paid 1-to-1 for your effort put in, like that's the future vision of this model.
GM, my name is DeGatchi, and today we have Alex. It's a pleasure to have you, man.
Hey, how are you?
Not bad. We both running off low sleep, all that stuff, but that's kind of the life we live, right? It's a pleasure to have you on. We met in Japan, and you're building some quite interesting stuff, and I wanted you to share this and also tell us about your past history. But before we get into that, let's just summarize what you're doing right now. Let's do that.
Sure. So, I'm the founder of Ubiquity DAO, and our flagship product is a stablecoin. But our vision has always been to build an ecosystem of products to settle payments in the stablecoin. So, our second, main product is what we call the dev pool, which we sort of we want to have it be like the future, like operating systems for DAOs, basically allowing them to operate more efficiently. And it's built inside of GitHub. So yeah, right now it settles payments in all sorts of, basically we're actually testing with DAI, but of course the future vision is to settle payments in our stablecoin.
Sure, yeah. And you told me about this dev pool when we were in Japan, and I personally think it's a massive boost in productivity. It's definitely aligned with your goals. So let's talk about that because it is quite interesting, and then we can later get into the stablecoin and whatnot. So what is this dev pool and how does it really work?
Yeah, so the simple answer is, DAO operating system. But, I want to give a little bit of backstory. So Ubiquity DAO, we consider ourselves like a, genuine, distributed organization. Everybody in the core team, we have about 12 people now. We're all in different countries. So, operating asynchronously, like we have people spanning the entire globe.
Gotcha.
Right now I'm in Korea, and one of my main researchers I liaise with is in Venezuela, right? That's literally like a 12-hour time difference. So, yeah. We're pushing the limits. And so we've had to really think critically about how we operate. And, for a while we were, we were bootstrapping, and my whole like startup background was like bootstrapping. Fortunately, we're venture backed now. So there's a bit more buffer, but, for a while we had to be very concerned with operational efficiency. And again, as a completely like properly distributed organization, sometimes it can be tough. It's not always easy getting on phone calls with everybody and doing things a traditional way. So, after a lot of R&D, it was actually also one other problem we were trying to solve was our recruiting. We wanted to be very efficient with our recruiting because I think that, any startup, any organization, any tech startup it really just primarily two things. It's the product, the software you're building, and the people. And, if you have good software, great. If you have good people, great. Like then that's like, those are the two main ingredients to make a successful startup. Yeah. And so that's why recruiting is very dear to me. Like, I think, I've always stressed how it should be done in perpetuity and it should be done efficiently because, you should constantly be doing it. So, those are the two main problems that we wanted to solve with this new, what we call the dev pool. Sort of like an efficient recruiting mechanism and an efficient operating system for tasks in our DAO. So I don't know if you wanted to poke it at, like with specific questions, or you just want me to keep kind of going.
Like, how does it actually work? So why does it make all this stuff so efficient? Recruiting, also building these contributions. Yeah. So what's the kind of workflow?
So I'd say specifically for recruiting, as probably the traditional recruiting process is kind of like somebody will, you'll post on the job board or something, and then somebody will send like a cover letter and apply for the job. And then, somebody in your team will like schedule an interview and,
it's a lot of time and energy.
Yeah. And so we were kind of thinking like, okay, how do we make this as streamlined as possible? And so I'm sure you've heard of like bounties, like, Gitcoin and all that. And I really like bounties because, you don't really have to communicate that much to get them to deliver. Well, to get them to deliver work, right? Yeah. So, the point of a bounty is like you set a price tag, like, hey, deliver this, make me this to-do list in my app. Send the deliverable is your code, and you set a price of like whatever, $500, and then bounty hunters will go in and submit code, right? They'll open a pull request or however different websites implement it. And yeah, the best part about this is that you see their quality of work. Generally, you have at least a bit of communication involved with that, so you can see how well they can communicate and express themselves. You get a lot of information from that quick experience. And I think that also, it kind of cuts out like 90% of the scammers out there who might be like good at interviewing, but like actually aren't effective.
For sure. So bypass the interviews, instantly get a job. And
yeah. So I'm really keen on the bounty approach. And so we're kind of using that as a core, I don't know if the right term is like building block, but like the core of the dev pool is, it's sort of like a bounty program. And so every task, has a price tag, of course. Think of like a normal bounty, right? And then, anybody can basically deliver work. Generally, we first designed this as a bot on GitHub. So it's inside of GitHub, seamlessly integrated. We actually made like / commands and all that fun stuff. But originally it's built for development. And we're actually expanding we're exploring for other roles like marketing and like partnerships to use the same system. But I'll get more into that later.
For sure.
So to kind of sum up my point here for recruiting, anybody in the world can hop on our GitHub, on our issues, see the specifications, and just like, open up a pull request and start solving problems. And, if they make it through our review board, because we have a core team that reviews all the pull requests, if it makes it through, then, immediately our bot can issue payouts directly on GitHub. And so, after seeing the same faces, opening a pull request, going through PRs successfully, pull requests successfully, we can see, wow, like these couple of people, they're really great. Let's extend a job offer to them, And so that, to kind of zoom out for a moment, for somebody like me, the project founder, I'm not on phone calls with people that probably are never going to get the job, right? Statistically, you're going to interview like 9 people, let's say, or 10 people, and then you'll churn through 9 of them. Maybe you'll hire one. That was like 10 hours of phone calls. So there's zero phone calls in this process. Number one. Number two, we're getting down to the brass tacks where it's like you can talk about, oh yeah, I've been coding for 30 years, but then you can tell when you see their code. Yeah. Show me your work. Like my favorite thing is like when I was interviewing back in the day, like developers, they're like, oh yeah, I did X, Y, and Z project. I'm like, oh cool, show me. Oh no, sorry, bro, it's under NDA. It's always under NDA. It's all everything's under NDA. So I just default to not believing people at this point. But it's a lot easier to believe people when you're looking through their pull request and seeing how they communicate and seeing their code.
Yeah, it's like credentials.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. And it's like custom. It's also solving like actual problems for us, right?
Like specified problems for your specific projects, right? Yeah. So basically, it's a control flow of you have an issue on your GitHub. Can other people open issues or only you guys? Okay, so sick. Sorry, you go.
Well, because there's a lot to unpack here. I'm trying to...
Okay, let's go through like the control flow basically. So someone can open an issue, whether it's you or someone else, an outside contributor. They look through your code base and like, okay, something here needs to be fixed or something here needs to be added. After that, they basically assign themselves to that task, that issue. And when they assign themselves, you give them like a time sort of, what do you say for that? Like a time schedule and also like a severity, like
so let me backtrack for a sec. I just want to conclude my previous point. All I described with my previous point was using bounties as a recruiting strategy. But now I want to get more into what makes our bounty program or our architecture special. So good segue. Good segue into what you're asking right now, or what you're explaining right now. Yeah. Basically, for us, as I mentioned earlier, it's 100% inside of GitHub. Well, okay, the only part that's not in GitHub is the payment dApp. Like, to receive payments, you have to click a button. It's like, Web3 enabled, but everything else is completely inside of GitHub. So, for new developers to jump in, it's already a UI and experience and tools that they're all already familiar with. There's no onboarding, right?
Yeah.
So it's GitHub.
Yeah. Perfect.
For issuing a new bounty, as you kind of alluded to, there's the 2 dimensions. There's a priority level and there's a time level. So in our current implementation, because we want to, I'm honestly almost on a daily basis, I'm filing new issues, and so are my teammates. So that was one of the first things we wanted to make sure to really, really streamline. Like, how do we price things very efficiently? And we got like way cool, and we got cooler ideas in the background with like a betting market and like crowdsourcing the information, but that's maybe later, episode 2. But right now we have 2 dimensions: the priority level, time level. And so we have these labels, like, and on GitHub you can set a label for any issue. And so we have a special class of labels that are populated automatically by the bot when you add it as an app to your organization or to your repo. So priority, it's basically right now it's like priority 0 through 4. And priority 0 is like normal. Next one's like medium. Next one's high, urgent, emergency. And then the other dimension is the course time estimate. And we intentionally made it course because we didn't want to spend so much time like, this particular task is going to take 3.5 hours or whatever. Like, the point of this is to be able to put out those bounties super fast. So our course estimates right now are like less than 1 hour, less than 1 day, less than 1 week. And anything above less than 1 week usually means you have to break it down further, because there is like less than 2 weeks and less than 1 month. But I kind of discourage the use of those. Anyways, and so it's a simple lookup table, X and Y axis, right? Priority level times time estimate, course time estimate equals bounty price. And this is all configurable, by the way. You add a little YAML file in the repository, and you can configure. So in conclusion, you quickly write, you file a new GitHub issue, type in the title, type in the body text. Hopefully you describe the issue clearly. You add the priority level, you add the time level, and then you click submit. So all this can easily be done, especially like when I'm going through a pull request and you see like we're discussing some problem. GitHub will allow you to basically turn a comment into a new issue. So like, it will automatically link back to the original conversation, and then you can add that priority and time level. I mean, you could do this in like 10 seconds, maybe even less. So I'm firing away new bounties multiple times a day, literally, less than 1 minute a pop. And they're useful, they're functional. People can see the backlinked conversation from the original pull request, and and somebody can hop on it and start implementing right away. It's a really cool feeling to like file some issues, like go to sleep, wake up, and you got some people you've never met, like working on it, or like a pull request open, and this is a reality for us. So it's really cool.
Yeah, that'd be amazing to just like wake up. You're like, okay, I need to go to bed right now. Let's see. Okay, let's see if we can put this as an issue and see if it gets done, one day. Because like tons of projects, they put like issues, but they're never like finished, and it's just like in the backlog forever.
Yeah.
But this like incentivizes core contribution, like it's open source contribution, which is a really important thing because it's such a great way to get exposure, learn how to work with these massive teams, and it's even like a reputation boost as well. A great example is like Foundry, for example. Like if you're working on Forge and they have tons of issues, right? Usually people do it just to get noticed by Foundry, and then they might just get hired or onboarded onto Foundry if it's like a good pull request or something. So that's the only reason for doing that. It's just experience and reputation. But now it's also an incentive, right? And I think that's very important because the only incentive before was just reputation, but now they actually can get paid and make money from it. I wonder, from like pricing these, what if they actually go above and beyond? Like what if they finish it before the time or maybe they have to extend it a bit longer because they found a further issue? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so basically for the time, we don't pay too close attention to be frank. It's more about are they continuing to work on it?
Right.
So let's say that, it's estimated to be a 1 week task, but they delivered a 1 day. It's like, great. That was budgeted. Okay. That was budgeted as a 1 week task. So if anything, they're happy, right? Because they got a lot more money in that 1 day. So beyond that, as I mentioned earlier, with firing off new bounties, a lot of the bounties that I create or the new issues that I file are directly from pull request reviews, right? It's like I'll right click, or there's like a little context menu next to each comment, and I'll click on it and be like, create a new issue from this comment. I'll do that a lot. So in this case, because the bounty hunter was, participating in that pull request review because they were delivering their work and they were participating in that conversation, they generally are the most up to speed on that newly issued bounty. So then they can immediately hop on that and get more paid or paid more. So I would say that for those incentives, it's like, great if you do it fast, if you do it slow, whatever, as long as you continue to work on it. And then the next thing is you'll be the most up to speed with new issues uncovered or new bounties generated as a result of that pull request review. And then lastly, I guess a big incentive is if you continue to do a good job, we make it very clear, like, hey, we're constantly looking to hire core contributors. So if you if you're doing a good job, like, we're gonna extend an offer to you and you can tackle more complex, less well-defined problems, and you get a base pay, basically a salary, like a low salary, while continuing to solve bounties. Last but not least, we're on the cusp of deploying this on our production instance, but we have this really interesting system for incentivizing participation. So what this means is basically you're getting paid to add new comments to a conversation. So unless you're the bounty hunter, because the bounty hunter is not eligible for comment incentives, because then that could give perverse incentives for them to ask stupid questions and just keep commenting. So they're the only ones not. Yeah, they're the only ones not eligible. But everybody else, if you add to that conversation with some research or to solve to answer a question or anything, every word you enter and then the formatting of the words counts too. That gets totaled up. So when the bounty is closed or when the issue is closed, everybody gets their cut, right? The bounty hunter gets their bounty, and then everybody who participated in helping them, like with comments, also gets their payment permits generated. So in conclusion, the theory behind this is that people are incentivized to help each other with solving or doing research and answering questions and writing clear specifications.
How do you go about dealing with malicious comments or things that aren't really relevant to the conversation? And are you the ones basically looking at the comments, or is it all automated?
Yeah. So to clarify, we don't have it rolled out in production yet. So I'll definitely get back to you on that. We're constantly experimenting. However, we are playing things defensively. There's a couple things that countermeasures that repository maintainers have for, against malicious comments. So number one, the only time that the payouts occur is when the issue is closed. So before the issue is closed, you can review like all of the conversation, right? And see, okay, what's going on here. Second, if you think that somebody is abusing, on a particular issue, you can delete the comment. The bot will only tally it up at the very end when the issue is closed. So you could mark it as spam, like that's built into GitHub, like mark it as spam, or you can simply just delete it, and it won't be totaled up when the payment permits are generated. And what else? I guess that's it so far. Actually, sorry, one last thing. For pull request reviews, the maximum comment incentives that can be generated, it basically maxes out at the bounty price. So for example, if it's a tiny bounty, like it's a less than 1 hour, low priority bounty, and it's like a $25 bounty, the common incentive, you're going to hit that very quick. So a pull request, if a bounty hunter is like, asking a million questions and like
trying to game the system,
or even if they're just not that talented, because this happens. Like they're trying to solve a very simple bounty, and they're like really wasting, for lack of a better term, they're kind of wasting the time of our review team with a tiny issue. We're actively doing research on disincentivizing the review team to continue reviewing when their time is being wasted. And the way that we do this is by capping those comment incentives. So if the reviewers are answering questions, for a $25 bounty, maybe you can answer a few questions and then you're going to hit the limit, and then there's no more incentive for you to continue. So this is maybe a bit coarse in terms of like human interaction, to be like, all right, well, you're not good enough for our time anymore. But we're still doing active research on that. But ultimately, we value getting things done. And if you have really low performing, and if you have really low performing bounty hunters, taking forever to solve tiny bounties, at a certain point you got to pull the plug. And this is a quantitative way to determine when to pull the plug.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder as well. So basically, they do a really good job and provide more than like a really good fix, basically, for an issue, like scalable, clean code, commented, documented. Can you provide like bonuses for this kind of stuff? And how does that work?
Yeah, so we have done bonuses in the past. Generally, it's after several solved bounties, like when some new bounty hunter is like on fire, just like killing it, because we definitely seen a couple of those. I'll just like send him just a normal transaction, drop the Etherscan link. Yeah, I'll drop the Etherscan link in the in the issue or in the pull request so that it's public, so that everybody can see everything, and clearly articulate like, I like X, Y, and Z about what you did. Keep doing that. Here's a bonus. Thanks. That does, if you go through our GitHub and go through all the issues and pull requests and stuff, like you'll see that occasionally.
I think another great thing, I don't know if you do it, but it could be like a registry of someone's history, like the statistics, how many have they completed in X amount of time, like some kind of streak in different projects, and even just like bouncing around projects. You could have a lot of statistics for that. So do you have something like that?
So we have, in our roadmap, we have like a whole like leveling system, leadership board or leaderboard, all that jazz. Right now, the only analytics that we had to do in this early stage, because we're technically still in beta, according to our roadmap. But the only analytics we have is this auditing tool. So, I'm the founder of Ubiquity, and I want to closely monitor all the outflows of the cache, right? Because this is still experimental. Like there could be, leaks to plug where like there's some exploits, something is going on. So I want to be able to, one place, see who's getting how much and how and why. And so, we built a very simple auditing dashboard. It just like scans the GitHub, like it goes to the GitHub API, and then it goes and looks for all the payment permits that were generated as like comments. And it will generate a table. Basically, it will say like, okay, you type in like, for this user, I want to see all the payments that they got. And then it will show like the issue. So you can click on it and actually read the whole, everything that they did. It's all auditable. Like you see the pull request, you see the original issue, the conversation, everything. And then you see the obviously the amount that they got paid. And I feel like there was one more column in there. I forgot. But long story short, it allows somebody like myself to very easily audit like all the outflows. And so we had to do that because for the sake of my sanity, like I was getting very nervous. Like we're just like authorizing a bot to just pay out whatever. So no, but in the I guess in our version 1, which is coming up, if I had to take a guess, between 3 and 6 months, we're going to be having very detailed analytics on exactly what you were talking about. Because really, like one of our big angles, like maybe this is kind of naive, I don't know, but I would love to make this service as a public good. I'm very inspired by like Gnosis Safe and their story. And, I like the idea of like making or giving back to the community, the Ethereum ecosystem in particular, and, and growing the ecosystem, doing my part. So like there's that side, but then like the more, I guess, capitalist, like selfish side is, well, we could preserve the analytics for ourselves and then basically snipe the best talent, so we can get our profits in a very indirect way, for lack of a better term. So that was something we were also considering. We're still figuring out how we're going to play our cards. I think that's going to be answered when we're doing our Series A, which we're going to start fundraising in probably about March 2024 with a 6-month fundraising window scheduled. And I think we'll learn a lot about what makes sense. We'll think more critically about our go-to market strategy. But yeah, for now, we're just focusing on utility and just solving problems. So it's all free. It's all open source. Anybody can use it right now. Yeah. Anybody can use any payment token. It's just about solving problems right now. Later, we'll talk about profit.
For sure, yeah. And one like critical thing I think would be also important is like how would you use this on like a closed source project? So I guess you would assign your team to the project and then have issues like that. But if they're already getting paid a salary, I guess how does that work?
Yeah. So two things. One, we do have this multiplier function made specifically for salaried contributors. Multiplier is just a quick / command. You type in any comment / multiplier. You type in, you tag whoever you want to select, at DeGatchi. And then you type in a float after. So 0.5 or 1 and then what this does is it modifies all the payment permits that are generated for you with that multiplier. So the intent here is that open bounty hunters, public bounty hunters that are not getting paid salaries, they can collect the full bounty for each problem. But salaried team members, depending on the level of their salary, I guess you can adjust their payments so that they still are incentivized to contribute and to solve problems. And, they're still technically doing the bounty system, but they get maybe less because they also have a base pay. So we currently have that. Yeah, we currently do have that. And I see a future. I see a reality where you can have a completely closed source. Excuse me. Sorry, I got air in my throat. You have a completely private team. Let's say you have a very elite team. You don't want outsiders working on your code, and it's all closed source, everything. But from a management perspective, perhaps you can see more efficiency because your team is directly financially incentivized to do their work. It's like almost like gamified. It's like, if you're working, you're racking up like your bonuses. And we also in our roadmap, we're going to make a simple Chrome extension that will overlay a custom UI that will basically like have live, like, oh, you're typing your comment right now. You'll see like the dollar signs go up on the right side, like for whenever you. So it's very, we want to make it feel like a game and like real time feedback of like, okay, you're working, you're getting paid. Look at that, those dollars going up. And also because of the Gnosis chain deployment. Because of the Gnosis chain deployment, we could support very like tiny transactions. So that's fun too.
Yeah, I think gamifying it is definitely like the way to go because me personally, I came like the way I got into programming was from games really. So I was like addicted to gaming and then I switched my like addiction into programming because it's kind of like gaming. You're basically working on something, but it's positive and you're thinking of new solutions and problem solving. So it's quite similar in some ways, but the only satisfaction you get is from actually like finishing a task. And I think something like that, where it incentivizes you and, brings you like more analytics that you can build up, gives you like a progress bar, like another progress bar on top of building.
Agreed.
So and it's like a positive thing as well. It's not getting you addicted to like a negative thing that doesn't provide any value. It's getting you addicted to actually making value.
To building things, solving problems.
Yeah. It's I think a lot of people will use this if it's like, it's basically perfect. So I wonder, how did you like even get into all of this? Like, how did you start your career and get up to like this point? It must have been very interesting.
It is. And unfortunately, I can't divulge too much because I'm supposed to be anonymous.
Just what you can then.
Yeah, I'll kind of neuter the history here, but what I can say is that I don't have a computer science background. When I went to school, it was actually more digital design. I did a lot more creative work. I don't know if you remember when we met in Tokyo, but I like to carry myself fairly fashionably, which is, I guess, is kind of unusual in this industry because it's I have a very, very heavy design background. I did design for like so many years, and I did like photography and like videography and like basically creative. But then, the world of creative and I guess engineering collided with front end web development. And I was like, yo, this is sick. Coding is dope. And so basically I just like independently like went down the coding rabbit hole, and it was because I was always hustling, when I was in university, like I was always trying to like make a buck. And that's because like I didn't get enough money from my parents to like, live super comfortably in university.
So you were doing like a degree that wasn't basically anything related to computer science, right?
Yeah, no, it was definitely not.
Okay.
But I was hustling, doing what I could with the skill set that I had developed at that point. But then, halfway through my university, I won't give like any dates or anything, but about halfway through the university, I discovered websites and all that coding and stuff. So I was like, okay, this is really cool. And then I started doing more like freelance work, like websites and then web application development. And I was like, okay, this is like really cool. And also I can get paid a lot more than for my creative work. So for sure. I was like financially incentivized to continue going down this web development rabbit hole. So I became very, very proficient in web technologies, in particular JavaScript and nowadays TypeScript. For the last maybe 5 years or so, I've been doing like exclusively TypeScript. I have like deep fascination with the work that you do. Like I like read the Ethereum yellow paper, and I like, I know some opcodes and stuff. Like I'm very fascinated by this stuff. It's just unfortunately the financial incentives for the direction that I've taken, my career. Unfortunately, that was a path of greater resistance. So I ended up taking just the trajectory that I was going in. I became very proficient, like in TypeScript and like Node and stuff like that, for better or for worse. So yeah, I guess all the while from then to now, it's been, a handful of years. And I've done a lot of startups. I've always been like very fascinated about doing startups. I think that startups are like the closest thing to playing like imaginary games when you're a kid, but like as an adult. It's like going on adventures with your friends and doing dope shit, So I really enjoy doing startups. I love the adventure and I love building stuff. But because I was poor for so long, but I really wanted to do startups, I had to become very, very efficient with operations. So it's something that's always a top of mind for me after, so many years of doing startups. Is like, I'm also like a really lazy person. So I'm always like, what's the easiest way I can get this thing done? I'd rather spend, there's like that XKDC meme where, you'll spend like 2 weeks solving a problem that, normally takes you like 5 minutes a day to do or something. That's
overcomplicate things.
Yeah. That's me in a nutshell. That, and also saving a buck. Like I'll spend, 2 weeks building something so I don't have to spend like $5 a month. It's just habits I've developed from like just bootstrapping startups for like pretty much my entire career. And so, I guess to kind of wrap that point up, with this new project, because we're like, from day one, a distributed team around the whole globe, I was always concerned with like, oh man, like salaries don't work, like synchronous conversations don't work. Like, how do I get people to like do their job, and how do I like manage them without like me spending so much time managing them because I'm too lazy to do that. And I'm a crypto, like DeFi in particular, really exposed me to the efficacy of financial incentives. I think there is, like nothing truer than financial incentives to get people to do things. So, the core like ethos of the whole dev pool design is very, crypto native. It's very like all financial incentives. It's like, hey, there's like kind of like no rules here. You can do whatever you want, but if you want to get paid, and if you want to get paid a lot, do these things, jump through these hoops, because those are where the financial incentives guide you to go through. And it's working out pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the future of sort of hiring and getting people to do the work, because these kind of like getting hired for, let's say, a fixed salary, it can be a lot of money as well. Even if you can basically go on a spectrum and work super hard or get the bare minimum done, you're still getting paid the same amount. So I think this kind of model definitely incentivizes, okay, more work, that's correlated to more money, and less work, less money. And it also incentivizes the quality and efficiency of these developers. So time efficiency, okay, if you finish this quickly, you can move on to the next one, get paid more. So I think it's a terrific model. And just to touch on that, like, when you started this project, did you ever have like an incentivized building projects from scratch instead of like issues, like sort of sector in it?
Well, I guess everybody's got their own approach to, how do they start from building a project from scratch. But technically speaking, because bear in mind that our flagship product
relating to the bot, like the dev pool we're talking about. So let's say, okay, you want to build a module out, but so basically it's not even started. Can you incentivize someone to start that module and finish it? Is that like another bounty option, or is it only issues?
So there are many ways to proceed with this scenario. It really depends on you as a founder, like how you want to play your hand. So what I've done in the past, so bear in mind, again, our first flagship product was a stablecoin, but then we ended up building this bot and the whole dev pool and all that stuff. And so in order to get this started, because I was selling, I had to sell my team on this idea, right? I had to convince my team, like, this is not a completely stupid idea. And everybody's very, very skeptical because there isn't really like that close of a parallel. I mean, I guess you could kind of say like Gitcoin, but like, a little bit different.
More like it's more like sustainable for like full time.
I think it's more direct with financial incentives, because it gets down to like the commenting level and everything. Like the vision is like for every function you can perform as a contributor in the DAO, if you can get directly paid 1-to-1 for your effort put in, like that's the future vision of this model. But that's a tangent. So what I did, I built the first prototype of the bot. It was a very simple, like just, basic code base. And it kind of did like very simple things. I forget. It was like assign, unassign. It was like really simple. I think it was also like pricing, because I really needed help for the priority level plus the time estimate to set a price, because that was so tedious every time setting a price. So I built this prototype in this code base. And then from there, because I wrote that first code, I immediately filed like, 20 issues, right? It's like, okay, here's what we need to do. And I break it down, right? So this was a very good foundation for one of our core team members to jump in, re-architect the whole thing so that it could scale better. Basically, it was like proper foundation. And then, start hammering away at these issues. Now, I guess another way you could play your hand, because I think I mentioned this earlier in the call, but we're actively doing experiments for non-coding tasks to be handled with this system in our DAO. So for example, like one ongoing function we have is grant writing. We're trying to build relationships with institutions that we respect. Like we, recently submitted like an optimism grant. We submitted there was a grant for GitHub. They have like some partnership with Polkadot or something, which is kind of unusual, but we were like trying to like get in because, GitHub. We also, I feel like we applied to, synthetics, so like we want to be associated with these guys because we want them to use our dev pool. But anyway, so the nature of grant writing is not necessarily like the deliverables are not really code. Not first. First you're writing a big document. You're answering all their questions. And so we have a few people on our team that are dedicated, essentially researchers. So they're not coding. And one of them is like leading the grant writing efforts. So it's like a lot of like writing tasks. And so we break it down on like GitHub. We have like an issue, and then we make like checklists and turn them into sub issues. And we could break down like essentially like a writing epic, like, oh, finish this optimism grant. But then it starts from like step 1, like, write the first draft. Step 2, whatever. And you have like 5 steps. And so with a little bit of training, I actually have like a video somewhere on our website, like how to deliver a markdown document entirely inside of the GitHub UI. So it's almost like Google Drive at this point, where we're using a dedicated grants repository. And then you can literally entirely on the GitHub UI, you can click a button that says add new file. You can name the file, you can move it in any folder, and it's a markdown document. And you can write in GitHub, inside of GitHub, write your document, click submit, open up a pull request, and then you can go through the exact same pull request review process. But this time it's not coding, it's writing. So now you have the research team who are not coders looking through the pull requests. And then again, it goes through all the common incentives and all that standard flow. And this is completely not coding. I can't stress this enough. So I think that there is a possibility where we could have all of our tasks across the entire DAO on this system, even though it's on GitHub. But we're going to be making a lot of accommodations to make it more user-friendly. But I really want to try to keep things as lean as possible when it comes to the user interface. I don't want to be building like a whole new website and all this crap, because that requires a lot more onboarding, I think.
Maybe you can make some few issues, get people. Yeah, I think that's like an amazing thing. And I guess when you're like speaking about this, I just realized like you could make basically a new repo and then put like maybe a README and then make issues with an empty repo saying what needs to be built.
That's what we're doing. Yeah. So
it makes perfect sense.
Yep. So you can see on Ubiquity's GitHub, like everything, I like stress the team constantly. There's one guy in the team who used to be a lawyer, and he's like, oh, we got to keep things private. I'm like, no, dude, like public everything. We're a DAO. Everything public. Anyway, so everything. So if you go on our GitHub, if you dig, you can see like there's a research repository, there's a partnerships repository, there's non-coding repositories. And then if you go through the issues, you can see all of our live activity. If not there, then in our Telegram group chat, which is all public. And so I stress this because, well, I don't want to be a LARP. I genuinely think that DAOs are the future. And I think what better way, to ride that wave than to like, try to lead it, right? To be building all these tools and figuring out ourselves, like how can we rethink how organizations are in the future? So that's something I'm very like passionate about. But also, I genuinely think that, especially in a distributed organization, information flows a lot more efficiently when things are all in public channels, because you can just link and then it's like, bam, here's a whole conversation. Now you have all the context. Like I don't have to repeat myself. So
exactly.
So I'm very adamant about everything must be public. So you could, for yourself or anybody listening to this, can go on our GitHub and like dig through our issues and even some discussions. We've used discussions before, and we've been able to kind of get through some simple non-coding related tasks using this exact same architecture, which I think is pretty exciting.
Yeah, it sounds like a massive productivity boost, and you have like a directory for all the issues basically aggregated into one spot. So if someone just wants to see everything and go scroll through like basically a bounty board, they can just
it's literally
they want and go time.
Again, also on GitHub, right? It's literally it's a GitHub repository with a custom script, and it just like mirrors the issues from all of these linked projects. And so we're actively working on refining that. Fortunately, the issues view has built-in filters, and so we're leveraging those filters and adding like special labels so you can filter for like TypeScript related bounties or Solidity related bounties or whatever. Yeah. So we're actively refining all that right now. It's kind of rough. It's just like they're all dumped into one place.
But it still works though.
Yeah, it still works. I mean, we have one of the researchers actively posting, like promoting our dev pool, like on different websites, like, crypto jobs, whatever. And then people, we funnel them to our landing page. We have a landing page on our website. And then one of the main links is like, check out the issues or check out the open bounties. And it's just the GitHub issues, the dev pool directory. And it works. They click in, and then sometimes if they like don't know how to assign themselves, the bot, it detects like it's their first comment, and it will drop the help menu to them right away. So it's like zero touch onboarding. It works like 99% of the time.
Sounds phenomenal, actually. I wonder let's say, I think this could be really useful in like auditing as well, like cybersecurity. So I wonder if that's been on your radar at all. Like if you want, a code base to be audited while you're reiterating on it, so how would that work?
So 2 points. Number one, I'm sure you've heard of Sherlock. Sherlock is like a So I feel like they could probably maybe benefit from this because they're like, very decentralized. But I'm not sure if that was like what you were getting at with your question. So my other point I wanted to add, occasionally, well, because of the nature of this, like we have so many eyes looking at our code, we've been able to get a lot of interesting feedback. And, basically proposals in the form of just somebody files a new issue. Like, here's the problems with your code currently. Like, I want to work on this, and then it gets priced and then they can do it. And so, like this week, we had this new guy jump in with our Ubiquity $1 repo, which is very, very code heavy. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but we have like 1 million smart contracts, for better or for worse.
Okay.
So it's a pretty dense protocol. But we got this guy who jumped in, and he's like, seemingly pretty hardcore about like optimizing for gas and also some security stuff. And, he's been been opening up new issues. So it's like really dope. And then, we will discuss it on the issue, like the core contributors and them, and we'll have a debate. And then sometimes, they've been turned into bounties. We just add the priority level and the time level, and okay, you're off to the races. Yeah. Or we close as not planned because whatever, we link another thing that solved it or whatever. So, this, we've definitely have seen and are seeing currently benefits of just having a very open, decentralized model where anybody could jump in and add their own observations or concerns. Anybody can open a new issue. So
sounds like it's covering kind of everything, and it's just kind of like the holy grail for contribution.
We're trying to make it that, but yeah.
It sounds like it. Like I would definitely use it if I was making open source. But you mentioned you're paying people in stable coins or whatever coins, tokens they desire or you desire, and you're building your own. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I guess basically right now we have 2 deployments of like the payments on our current, on the beta of the dev pool. So we do mainnet, which is DAI. But we realized that, with gas fees sometimes spiking up, if you're collecting a $25 bounty and you're paying $15 to, gas fee or whatever, kind of sucks. So some people were complaining, I don't know, like last month, it was like some crazy high spikes. So we did a deployment on Gnosis chain, which is so dope because literally it's like, it varies between like 1 billionth. Like you could do 1 billion transactions before it costs $1, or like, 20,000, but that's like the max range I've seen. It's great for these tiny, frequent payments. So that's using wrapped XDAI technically. But, once we're finished with our new deployment for our $1, because we're like, we did like open heart surgery on our protocol. We did like the diamond standard, which is a very contentious topic. Like it's very polarizing, but we want max flexibility. Anyways, so that was like a big open heart surgery. And we did a couple other major basically changes to our $1. Like we're decking it out with like every auditing tool we could find. Like we have like MythX, we've got like Slither, we're using Foundry fuzzing. We I think we have Echidna in there somewhere. Like we were just throwing the kitchen sink at it, right, with our CI. And that's because we want to do it right. We want to be patient, want to do it right. And so with all this, we technically currently have our $1 on mainnet, but I consider that more as a prototype. It's a very early version. What I plan to do, because we're pretty close, like we finished the diamond stuff. I think we just finished the collateral module, because we originally started without collateral, actually, back in the day when people thought that you could do stablecoins without collateral. Yeah. So we completely changed our protocol like a million times. So in conclusion, before we start our fundraising in about 9 months or whatever, in March, we definitely want to have our new deployment with all of the nice security CI and the diamond, access control manager, everything, all these bells and whistles. We want to have that ready to go. And then we also, I guess it's a little bit of a tangent, but also want to participate in like curve bribes and stuff to boost our liquidity and, position ourselves to be a lot more attractive for our Series A. We also are actively doing research on issuing debit cards, which has been a real bitch from a regulatory standpoint.
Okay, yeah.
We're kind of honing in on either Singapore or Hong Kong right now. It just comes down to who we're working with. We have very specific needs or requirements. Like we need API access to be able to extend the behavior of these debit cards, but that apparently is not that common. Like a lot of card issuing partners are just like very generic, like white label, and like you can't customize anything other than like the graphic on the card. But we're trying to innovate. Yeah. We're trying to build new, things. So we need like code access. Like we need to be able to access our APIs. Yeah. And so like one future vision that we've done a lot of research on is like genuinely making your EOA wallet, like your MetaMask wallet on chain, like genuinely be your checking account. And I don't know if it's appropriate for me to get into the details right here and now, but at a high level, we have this specification, this design to be able to essentially let you spend your Ubiquity dollars in the real world, quote unquote, with your debit card. And then basically the next time you invoke the transfer call, next time you move your money on chain, it gets rebased so that we stay current. And so, the vision is that you can have like Ethereum as your checking account. So you can do whatever you want inside your checking account with your Ubiquity dollars. You can go LP, you can go whatever, yield farm, whatever you want. But we have designs for how we can monitor, basically keep track of all that, and then allow you to spend it live with your debit card in the real world. And so innovations like these, I think, could be pretty interesting for the industry because we haven't heard these implementations being done yet. But we got to figure out how to get these debit cards out there. It's really, I think we're pretty good at R&D. Yeah. We're not that great at regulatory yet. So stay tuned.
It's like the kind of like road bump you need to get over, and
we spent a few months on that stuff, but of course,
it'll be interesting though. Like, definitely need to experiment.
I think things get a lot more interesting like when you combine different products and sort of make it the greater than the sum of its parts. Like, another future vision we have is, being able to have these bounty hunters, like essentially have these on-chain checking accounts where they can like cash out instantly, whether it's through their debit card or through fiat on and off ramping. And then, having the, having the Ubiquity dollar sort of as being the bridge of everything. But the most interesting part, in my opinion, is that a stablecoin can be a very profitable business in a not very apparent way. So, for example, if we build an ecosystem of dope products, like let's say the dev pool like really, kicks off and like people are using it, and in theory, we could subsidize the cost of using the dev pool to be like apparently $0. I use air quotes and say apparently $0. Like it's free to use. But in reality, let's say we make it so that you have to settle payments in our Ubiquity dollars. So there's a few ways we can make money on the back end. Number one, swap fees, of course. Number two, mint fees, of course, if you're, minting new Ubiquity dollars. And number three, arguably most importantly, getting yield off the collateral. So I don't know if you know, but like Frax is like amazing at this, where they have, a bunch of collateral sitting in the bank of Frax, and they deploy that that collateral in the DeFi ecosystem, and they make, anywhere between 10 and 40% APR or whatever. But on 20, 30, $40 million, that's a lot of money for a team of like 5 or 10 people, So, so it's kind of magic where you can have these sort of like products and services, like maybe a debit card and like the dev pool and all these things. And we can say, oh, it's free. But in reality, right, like we're making money in the collateral in the back end or whatever. So I think it allows us to be very innovative with our revenue models, and we can kind of race to the bottom with costs if we're competing with like sort of like software as a service type stuff. So that's another reason why. That's one of many reasons why I'm very interested in making a stablecoin. It allows very innovative monetization models, very roundabout monetization models. Yeah.
I guess there's also like inherent risk with that as well, though. Like if you deposit all this collateral into a pool and that pool somehow gets hacked, then it's kind of all over, right?
Yeah.
So I guess how would you even deal with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, risk management is a whole nother conversation. It depends on.
That's true. Yeah,
it depends on how conservative you are or how greedy you are. They're kind of like polar opposite ends of the spectrum. Usually, the more, the higher risk, the higher reward. I think that we would be very incentivized to stay very low risk because we have more irons in the fire than just the stablecoin. Like we're trying to build an ecosystem. Yeah. So, like I said, we haven't fully figured out our go-to-market strategy with the dev pool, but but I think like, if we're going to be conservative, like, we could charge a small fee, to start. And then if we see like Gitcoin step in, they're like, oh, we want to do something similar, we'll just race them to the bottom. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So we'll see. We still have some time to figure out how we're going to play our cards there. But in conclusion, risk management. I would say I would want to stay more so on the conservative side. Lower yields, and maybe trying to make up for that with some upfront charge on let's say our dev pool, at least until competition comes up, and then we'll have more options, more ways to navigate.
I think we are running out of time, but it's been a pleasure talking to you and learning about this sort of a open source incentivization program program you built. I think it's definitely going to pop off, and I personally would be using it for open source startups as well. Even just like closed source, if you have like a team of people, just add the multiplier, kind of pay them through that. You can bring them on board as like quote unquote full time, but you're just giving like higher payouts to certain things. And I think that would work like really well. Incentivize work. Yeah, man, I'm super excited to see the future of this. We're really early stage, seeing like, early days experimentation, but I think this could really be like a massive game changer, not even just in Web3, but in Web2 as well. Yeah, man, super excited. Love having you on. Definitely going to have you on again when you make more progress. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, man.
Likewise. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to our next conversation. If not on the podcast, then in real life, come visit my part of the world if you got some free time. And also, I would love to learn more about your work. As I mentioned, I'm very fascinated by what you do. I understand I'm the guest, and I'm the main person to be talking, but would love to have another conversation with you more about your work.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's it. This is Alex from Ubiquity. And yeah, have a good day.
Thanks so much for having me.